Good day and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the GSA Any Percent League. Today, with a match between Titans. NicroVeda and SuisaigaW both used to pretty much dominate the Any Percent leader boards for a pretty decent amount of time. Actually, this was kind of when the race for 102 was a thing, and Nicro, obviously, world record holder for pretty much, I think, the longest time last year, pretty much when the year started up until June or even even August is when he really dominated the boards pretty much on his own. But yeah, obviously super exciting matchup. Sui up in there as well. I think Nitro actually just PB'd yesterday and got like a 10050, which is obviously pretty respectable. So getting in there as well. And I'm joined by Dangers again for some core commentary. What's up, Dangers?
Good day, Limcube. How are you today?
Incredible, actually. With this race on the line here, I couldn't feel any better.
What an intriguing matchup we have here. So NicroVeda, not very familiar with this whole race format. I believe the last tournament he was in was one from GSA way back in the day, and he didn't even get to race in it. So kind of making his quote-unquote debut here in GSA events with this league. So we'll see how he handles the pressure of racing. SuisaigaW, on the other hand, is a very familiar competitor when it comes to these kinds of formats and racing. He has kind of built up a very strong resume for himself. So, maybe that will be to his credit in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. SuisaigaW definitely making himself familiar in GSA pretty much from the get-go. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything, obviously, in this competition. Once again, Nicro seems to be pretty warmed up, but literally PBing yesterday. I think I've caught him say that he thinks he's going to be able to beat this PB even still. So potential, definitely, at least motivation to be found there. And once again, this is a very interesting matchup. I'm not going to call favorites. Actually, I think it would make it more interesting if we did, though. So I'm kind of trying to make the prediction here.
It's a really tough call,
It's mainly a tough call because I don't necessarily know Nicro's racing habits too well. Like, I know his PB potential is high. He has the potential to get a really good time. But for Sui, I already know that his consistency in races can be very scary. I know Nicro from No Resets can potentially also have like an off day. Overall, I think I'd give it to Sui as the prediction for this win. But we'll see.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to actually bet the opposite direction. I'm going to say NicroVeda's got this in the bag. He is coming off of a pretty solid PB, getting his first 100. SuisaigaW, you don't really see him as much streaming and doing runs and stuff like that. He was just on yesterday, but I think that consistency that you were talking about might just bite him in this race.
Yeah, and by the way, both runners just starting up their games real quick and reload just to get rid of that weird accidental, like a longer loading time that can occasionally occur. So it looks like they're getting that out of the way. Nicro's already at the start screen. SuisaigaW is just getting there. So we should be on our way in about 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. And then it's off to the start. Once again, before we actually dive fully into the race, the way GSA leagues work is a little bit different than just your standard race. Winning obviously gets you rewarded the most points. It's definitely your main objective to win a race. But other than that, there's also a pool of points that gets distributed depending on by how much you win by. And if you guys want to see the exact values for that, you can type in !leagues, and you will be able to see a document that kind of gets you to that table.
Yeah,
that
just
shows you the information.
You just got to click on Super Mario Odyssey League on the left-hand side, and it will take you to the information you need to know about that.
Yeah, spelling league is pretty hard though. I gotta say that. So yeah. But with that, we are definitely on our way right now. Looks like SuisaigaW got the better end there of the spin pound, a little bit of a cleaner start, but just actually losing some time there with this angle on the bridge. Looked like he was slightly ahead, but Nitro just had the cleaner angle there, rolling on the railing of the bridge and making it to that cutscene trigger a little bit earlier.
It's amazing that in a kingdom so short and so optimized that just those tiny little differences are really enough to be able to kind of break the sync here.
That was fast too. Like he suddenly came out ahead just because of that cleaner line. And then talking of cleaner lines, even though there's a bunch of strats you can do in this game, sometimes it's simple things like missing a cap throw towards that frog there that happened to Sui. But clean lines, like just going to your destination on the fastest and the most direct way possible is actually huge. It does so much, and it's so visible in a race. So this is really underrated. Even though it seems like the simplest thing, it still has a lot of impact on your run.
And especially when you get to a level of consistency that these players can tend to have in some of these sections, you know, it becomes very noticeable when even the tiniest slip up happens.
And yeah, we actually talked about this yesterday, but it seems like left side is really something that these high-level runners in the league have not really been dealing with anymore. I mean, we do this trick for a year now, even more potentially. So, at this point in time, it seems pretty consistent. You still have like an off try, but left side kind of under the belt now.
Yeah, of course, I did say that yesterday, and then in my very first attempt on my stream, I missed left side. So these things do still happen. Of course, Commentator's Curse does indeed have karma associated with it as well, I believe. That being said, NicroVeda, it looks like he does have about a second lead going into Cascade, maybe less. It's going to come down to FMS to see who pulls ahead here. We've already seen a couple people bonk in this league on this FMS attempt.
So no Commentators Curse in it, but now that trick is really free these days. Actually, looks like Nitro might actually be attempting the wall jumpless version and gets it as well very nicely. Then loses his momentum on the roll, but he does, and it looks, oh, unfortunate bonk there from as well. But I think it always looks very odd when you go for that wall jumpless version because you kind of like dive into the rock, but for some reason the collision there doesn't really work and you just get up there. So Nitro with the better strat, but with some mistakes shortly afterwards, so he does lose his lead right here.
Yep, unfortunate, losing his momentum, and even without the bonk, I think SuisaigaW would have come flying past him just from the momentum he was able to gain from his spin pound doing the wall jump version. So, you know, really coming down to this whole, you know, do we go for the risky strat to save that 0.5 of a second, or do we play it safe in order to kind of hold on to the points that we maybe can get out of this race?
Yeah, not even a brutal phase between these two, which is actually a very common time difference that I've noticed happen a lot of times where one runner would be pretty much one phase of the fight ahead at this point. So Nyquil's still doing well enough, only really having to deal with that one unfortunate bonk and his loss of momentum after the first moon skip. And Sui, yeah, very signature of him. They're going for the spin pound RCJ into the moon. RCJ stands for roll, cancel, jump, and has been doing that for a long time, always looks the cleanest when it comes to these moon grabs. Actually, he does have quite a lot of best theoretical time clips for these moon grabs. He's just very clutch on them for some reason.
Yeah, and getting it with the spin pound, of course, you do have to be very tight. You have to get your timing right. When it comes to these like multi-moon dropping into the screen kind of things, it is really kind of just muscle memory, knowing when you gain control of Mario again, and that's really important for making that kind of strat the most optimal that you can get. The most common thing that you see is just a simple forward roll into a roll cancel and jump, but SuisaigaW flexing a little bit.
Another unfortunate bonk there for Nitro and Cascade. Oh my god, he actually gets almost robbed by the change jump there, literally destroying the ground under. But Sui actually having to deal with some weird stuff happening, and Chesney Peak kind of clips back out of bounds and is still able to save that one pretty much immediately with an up throw. Looks like Nitro will be able to get that Chesney, but kind of a ton of events happening at the same time here. SuisaigaW will come out on top, leaving Cascade.
Yeah, NicroVeda having a little bit of a clumsy Cascade Kingdom by the looks of it, taking a couple bonks, and yeah, like you said, the chain chomp almost ruining his chances of getting up to the top of the cliff, but was intuitively smart enough to get up the side of the cliff and grab the moon. So not a whole lot of time lost there, but we do see SuisaigaW kind of taking the lead in the beginning part of this run.
Yeah, Sand coming up next. Can't really tell who I'm going to give... who I think would be favored as far as just Sand Kingdom goes. I do say all the time that I think Sand is the stage that favors the most mechanically heavy players, I guess the most, because it's kind of... the route hasn't really changed much ever since we started doing it. There have been some slight changes, but it's pretty much just fast-paced movement. Not even any difficult jumps, it's just having clean execution, really.
Certainly. And I suppose The perspective of that changes a little bit depending on how much you've played the game, because I would say that Dram Strat is a particularly tricky thing to get a hold of. Once you kind of learn it, it's all right. But Sphinx Clip as well can kind of give you a hang up. But aside from that, you're right. It's just basically technical precision, movement based, and it's just execution, making sure you don't bonk or anything.
Yeah, for sure. So Sui pretty much just leaving that ground pound room, the rumble room, as Nyko is just grabbing up that moon from the spin pound he previously had done. Also looks like, ooh, Nyko actually with a pretty nice strat. I really like seeing that kind of rolling on top of that roof there after that pipe exit. Let's see if he can also get that moon on his first try, going for a spin pound as well. And Sui already off towards the dram section.
Not only a spin pound, but a spin throw roll cancel into a spin pound. You know, I think that if we were talking about swag points yesterday, I think that
I'm actually not sure
really...
if that was a spin throw roll cancel. I feel like he was actually just spin throwing unintentionally, but maybe I did misread that.
Potentially. But in any case, if he was going for the swag points, I think we would have to award them to him in this situation.
Oh, looks like double ice dram though from both runners here. Sui already successfully did get that dram. It looks like Nyko will as well. That kind of makes it so that the bullet bill is in a little bit of a better position going over towards that pillar moon, and works out great for both of them. Suisaiga about to come up to that Sphinx clip part of the run, and I'm not sure if he's going to be going for double clip. Fairly sure Nyko will, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to say what Nycro is going to do in a race situation, because he has not been in a race situation since basically the very first tournament that was ever held for Super Mario Odyssey. Like I said, he was in a GSA competition, but didn't actually get the chance to compete at all. And as far as I know, maybe aside from the race that he had with Fur at the GDQX event, has not really been in a race situation before. So it does look like he is going for the double clip here, though.
Double clip for both of them, and Sui actually with really nice clips, not really getting held back by the wall at all. Nycro not grabbing too many coins there on that Sphinx visit, also having to deal with, I think, 2 missed clips. Let's see if he can make that second clip work immediately, and he does. This is arguably the bigger one. Sui actually getting attacked by some cacti there, but yeah, once again, it's definitely pretty important that you get that second clip sooner than rather than later, because you have to deal with the bird cycle.
That is very true. NicroVeda making it through the cacti just fine here. And, you know, these little things are going to start to add up. There really is not a very huge difference between these runners at all. We're still within 1 moon of each other.
Dude, Nycro with some hot roll cancels there for both bullet bill captures. Really nicely done. I really like that.
Yep, spin throw roll cancel is probably one of the flashiest things you can do in this game. And once you learn how to do them, you put them everywhere.
Yeah, pretty rough timing on these. But Sui actually not ahead by that much anymore, which I'm kind of struggling to see where that really came from, because he hasn't really been making too many mistakes. But this looks pretty good right now. Probably looking at around like a 10 second lead.
It could very well be the movement like we were talking about at the beginning of Sand Kingdom. Nycro is just taking the lines a little bit cleaner. Suisaiga is, you know, he's playing clean, but he's not playing the most optimal, perhaps.
Oh, and Lake Clip will actually be fairly interesting now going into Lake soon, because I know Nycro has been doing Lake Clip pretty much from the get-go. I think he was really the first runner that did Lake Clip in his attempt, so I'm pretty much expecting him to go for it at this point. Suisaiga, though, not sure if he will be messing with it. I know he's definitely fully aware of the trick and he's also capable of performing it, but I'm not necessarily sure if he's going to be doing it in this race.
It's hard to say, only time will tell, and we are approaching Lake Kingdom now. Does look like that Suisaiga has about a 10 to 15 second lead over NicroVeda entering Lake Kingdom.
For sure. Okay, looks like Suisaiga will be getting a around 10-12 fade out here, which is still pretty respectable. Definitely pretty good sand fade out. We've seen worse. Nycro, on the other hand, not too far behind. Once again, 10-12 for Sui there. Probably looking at about a 24 for Nycro, so pretty much 12 seconds between the two, not even. So pretty respectable there. Nycro pretty much catching up a little in that end portion of sand. Really clean movement after Sphinx Clip especially.
Yep, certainly. You could tell with some of the flashier strats that he was using, the spin throw roll cancels. I think his Sphinx clips specifically were quite hot. So he is going to be kind of making up a little bit of time in Sand Kingdom after a rough Cascade start.
Okay, Lake though coming up. SuisaigaW already setting up his cap to go towards that zipper section, and then we will obviously pay close attention on any lake clip attempts, because even if both of them were to go for it, it still will matter how well they are doing the entirety of the clip. And I'm pretty much expecting lake clip out of Nicro, but now the surprise is going to come. Is Sui going to attempt it or not? Looks like he will.
A particular setup I have not seen yet, but is going to make it work for himself anyways.
Second try, very nicely done. Nicro going for a more traditional setup. Actually gets Cappy to clip the first try. If he gets those out of bounds movement sections, now it looks like he will. Even better there. So definitely saving even more time. Nicro once again showing how worth it was to start learning this trick from the get-go and getting a pretty much textbook-like clip.
Yeah,
let's see if the Joy-Cons are coming in hot though.
The Joy-Cons coming in hot with the down throw.
No, that was just unfortunate. I think Sui might have switched to Joy-Cons, but his down throw might have not come through, because he definitely threw Cappy.
Yeah, it looked like there was an attempt there. Nicro getting the down throw just fine. He is very slowly creeping up on SuisaigaW in this Lake Kingdom.
Yeah, and if you guys are new to this kind of lake route, top runners usually actually tend to switch to the Joy-Cons just for that specific portion of the run, to be able to down throw into the water, which makes that clip even more worth saving an additional second if you get that down throw, instead of just like falling down and capturing.
Yeah, making the lake route even more worthwhile. Yeah, I remember it was theorized that this lake clip was probably only going to save about a second or two, and then out of the woodwork comes all of these other optimal things about this particular route, that being the Joy-Con down throw, the fact that the Cappy text does not appear in Metro Kingdom later. You add all these things together and you're looking at somewhere between 5 and 7 seconds if it's done optimally. So
yeah, actually optimally, like on textbook, that trick actually saves 9 seconds now, so it's pretty crazy how far it's come. And this is mainly obviously due to the down throw, due to just faster clipping methods, faster wall jumps, stay out of bounds, do everything faster. This is usually how routing changes get done these days. If we can prove that they save like a second somewhere, people will start doing them and optimizing them. And then you have to think, like, we use new strategies compared to routes that have been in place for almost a year now, so obviously they are fairly optimized compared to the new ones. So as soon as the new ones get optimized, those time saves adds up. Another one might be the one that I'm sure Sui might probably be going for here in Wooded, because he did so in the grand finals of the last any percent fall tournament, which is going to have him skip the Piranha Moon, the Piranha Story Moon later on, and he will be getting the Tree Moon instead. I'm at least assuming that from him.
I am pretty confident in that as well. We've already seen it a couple times in this tournament, in fact, or in this league.
Yeah. Yeah, actually yesterday I think both runners, no, actually only Equan opting to go for that version of the wooded route. We'll see if I promised you guys too much, but if anyone in this race, I'd assume Sui would be the one to go for it, because he has been showing interest in the route even like a month ago. So let's look at this exactly. And this is another instance of a route potentially saving like a second when we first looked at it, but now once again, in the best theoretical time format, this already saves almost 3 seconds. So this is just how these routes go. It looks like Sui will be going for it. Also, it makes the camera work in a way that the upwood spawns in early, so if he does get the floor road skip later on, he will be gaining some additional time, will be gaining a little bit of additional time save.
Yeah, Nicro, on the other hand, opting for the other route, the one that's more common and more potentially optimized, getting the nut clip on the first try, and the only try, I suppose. Out of bounds movement looking pretty slick. He's up and through. Nice. SuisaigaW is going to be following right behind, but actually misses the nut clip here.
Okay, rock clip time or not? Because if Sui gets the rock clip right now, I'm assuming this would probably be around tight at the end of Wooded right now. Looks like he initially tried to go for it, but maybe decided against it on the go. Like, he was triple jumping up there and then just dropped it.
Now, this is a bit of a curious situation. What do you do when you try to go for the tree route, but then opt to go for the old route as well?
Basically, you just get an extra moon. I think in this case, it's best to just not get the dead end nut instead, which is probably around the same speed as the tree if done optimally. So you just get Piranha even still and just skip out on that dead end nut and maybe lose like a second additionally, but it's not the end of the world. Like the moon that Nicro's getting right now is what I'm assuming Sui will be skipping and then still be going for the old wooded route.
That would make the most sense to me as well. You know, you do hate to see it though. This is still about a 25-second time loss comparatively to the nut clip route itself.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty big.
Considering SuisaigaW did only have like maybe a 5 to 10 second lead, this may have just changed the course of the entire race here.
Once again, looks like Sui will be getting up to that maze. That's the moon that is expected out of him. And once again, I think he will just grab the Piranha Story Moon immediately after without any detours for that nut. But Nicro about to go for Flower Road Skip. Very quick spin pound out of him there. Let's see if he can make his way over. He will be able to do that. He's still just going to have to deal with some spewed skip shenanigans later on. But Sui actually still, maybe he might not be completely aware of the fact that he has an extra moon. Because that would surely be the moon that I would be skipping right now. Oh, I hope he is. Yeah, I hope he's not trying to skip the story moon. Okay, I was scared there for a second because I'm not sure if he knew that if he skipped that story moon, he wouldn't have been able to fight Spears.
Yes, and that is basically his only option at this point. So
yeah,
good thing that he is grabbing that one. It'll be interesting to see which one he skips. If anything, it's going to be the Crumbling Tower now. But you know, NicroVeda is through the tower now, as we say that. He is going to be going for the Spiritless route, I imagine, jumping off the tower.
Okay, so he might have just forgotten that he got an extra moon, because right now, all moons that are available to him wouldn't be worth skipping at all.
It's true.
Yeah, unfortunate. He would have been able to skip that nut on the dead end moon. He will probably just have an extra moon at the end of this wooded now.
Yeah, so long as he remembers that he's got an extra one, he might just skip something here, but he is going for the nut here. Yeah, it's very, very likely that he's just going to go ahead and get the extra moons out of force of habit.
Probably. Not the end of the world here. Nicro, though, is already on his way to collect that last moon here in Wood, and then he's going to be able to warp back to the Odyssey. And yeah, it looks like Sui will end up with an additional moon here in Wooded once again. It's hard to blame him there because he was going for that really advanced Wooded route and then realized, then actually missed nut clips. So yeah, unfortunate. Not the end of the world. It's still recoverable.
Yeah, he did hand the lead back over to Nicro though. Nicro showing a very solid Wooded Kingdom.
Yeah, for sure. Nicro not going for the very advanced, like, Piranha Moon skip, but basically playing the rest of it as well as possible. Very quick out-of-bounds movement after a nut clip, while also obviously getting that in general, which is something that we ended up missing. But now, heading into Cloud, pretty slow-paced kingdom. It's pretty much just a big old boss fight. We have seen a lot of times losses though. More, I think, in the Moon refight of Bowser, but obviously you can also have these mistakes happen to you in Cloud, where you just miss a head grab or two.
Yeah, the second phase of the Bowser fight's being particularly tricky, in my opinion. So that's where you're going to see a lot of the mistakes happen. And of course, if anybody tries to go for any sort of risky cloud boost strategies on their way to the Bowser fight, that could be a point where you might die and lose some time. But Nicro is in the boss arena here with no issues and fighting Bowser now.
Yeah, not expecting any cloud boost out of these two guys. This is a fairly niche strategy that almost no one is actually opting for other than really Fur, let's be real here. But he does do it, and actually still setting some records for this opening section of Cloud Kingdom. But let's see here. Is Nicro already on the last phase of the Bowser head grabs, arguably the easiest one. Just get the damage boost into the head and then have a relaxed timing as far as timing that cap throw goes.
Yeah, and Suisaiga's Wooded Kingdom definitively putting him behind, unfortunately. We are looking at about a minute of difference now, but Suisaiga in the arena facing off against Bowser as Nicro leaves into Lost Kingdom now. We do have to do a little bit of a throwback, I think. The last time Nicro was in a race, Lost Kingdom did not treat him very nicely at all.
Actually trying to remember that, but I'm not sure what happened exactly.
Well, he was in his GDQX race against Fur _. He did take a death on his way after Klepto and had to make his way all the way around and forgot to activate Klepto again. and actually triggered Klepto in the process. It was very messy, an unfortunate situation that you hate to see, but I think it's just because of the situation. You know, anytime you die in Lost is basically a reset, so he probably just was not familiar with having to initiate Klepto again.
And looks like for now this Lost is treating him fairly well, about to get that ground pound moon here on the propeller. After racing some longer categories, I feel like this Lost is actually one of the easiest ones. I mean, it's definitely not easy to play super fast, but I feel like these longer category Lost visits, especially Lost 2 like Darker Side, or even Lost 1 if you go for the TNT strat, are a lot harder and make Lost even scarier than it is in any percent, but nonetheless, the poison doesn't go away. It doesn't matter which route you do, there will still be poison and you can still die easily. Nitro actually getting an unintended homing throw against one of these blocks. But once again, this Lost is treating him pretty well so far.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's having too many issues with it.
Triple jump cage coming up. Will land on that tree, not getting knocked down by the Tropetal, which is actually the official name of these little bugs trying to steal your head, and he will also be getting the bridge. So he's kind of safe. He might still die afterwards, but looks like he will be safe. And that is going to once again be a pretty solid split from him here. Not really any mistakes in Lost.
Yeah, I think Nicro is in the groove now. I really do think that after that kind of shaky cloud or shaky cascade kingdom he had at the beginning, he's really finding his stride, and he's pulling ahead quite handily here.
Absolutely. Very nicely done from Suda, immediately having the Tropetal steal his head. And Nitro is ending Lost there on a 22-25, so we will be able to kind of call some timing difference here as Suisaiga is about to leave, because it is once again noteworthy to bring up that this is not a tournament type of situation. It's not like the loser of this will be kicked out of any tournament. This is a league race. So the winner of this will just gain points depending on if they win and how well they do. Oh, Sui actually going for... Oh, I'm very sad that didn't work, but Sui was trying to go for that newest strat there, the up throw dive, which is something that Xbox actually recently posted. You basically do an up throw dive on top of it so you can skip the wall jump on the bridge. It's really, really sexy if it works, but unfortunately dropping that. It's not the end of the world. He will just be basically death warping back to the Odyssey, but I would have loved to see that one. Sui stepping up his game here, going for some newish strats.
Yeah, very recently developed, probably within the last couple days, in fact. And yeah, I think just the extra height from the cap coming out from under the bridge with that up throw is what allows that trick to be successful. Yep. And you kind of just get a little bit of extra height. You don't need an extra cap throw to get back up on top. And yeah, you know, throw it in the BTT sheet.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, anyways, once again, back to the point, this is a league race, so depending on how well you do, you get awarded more or less points. So Nitro obviously right now with a pretty solid lead. If you can build that up even further, this will cause an even better outcome for him. If you once again want to take a little bit of a closer look into how this point system works, you will be getting 40 points for a win, but there will be a pool of 20 points depending on how well you do. If you crush your opponent by 3 minutes or more, you will actually get 19 extra points out of that pool. And if your opponent actually is able to close him the gap by 10 seconds, you will be able to get 19 points himself. But if you want to get the exact values, type in !leaks, go down to the Super Mario Odyssey part of that document, and you can check out the exact point distributions.
Yeah, a very important thing to note here is that, yes, it is not tournament. This is a quote-unquote regular season match. So anything that these guys are doing for the next, I believe, 11 weeks is essentially our schedule, is basically just preparing ourselves for the upcoming finale tournament that will be taking place a couple months from now. So trying to do their best against their opponents in order to place well and make a spot for themselves in the tournament.
Yeah. And as we are approaching MechaWiggler right now, quick shoutouts to Mr. BFBB himself, Shift with that sub coming in hot. Obviously, very much appreciated support for GSA. Right now, Nitro is dealing with one of the very few RNG sections of the run and gets it phenomenally, very fast, 2-cycle MechaWiggler. If we look at the entirety of the run, this is probably one of the few segments that actually has RNG going for them. This pattern this MechaWiggler can vary, but Nitro not only reacting well to the pattern, but also nailing his shots pretty much optimally.
Yeah, just taking a bit of damage, which is pretty common in this fight, so that you can kind of maintain your composure and get those shots off well. The only time that you don't take damage, I find, is if you get a pattern where the Wiggler crosses across the bottom towards the end of the pattern, so that you can kind of just like move in on him and shoot all the orbs very easily. But that being said, very clean Mecha Wiggler from Nicro. Hopefully Suisaiga will be able to follow suit here.
It's about to come up for him, and looks like he already gets some nice shots in. This last shot won't cause him any trouble. Yeah, very nice. And optimal Mecha Wigglers pretty much from both of them. However, Suisaiga might be able to show off his optimal moon grab one more time. This is once again a section that he usually tends to do better in than anybody else. But on the other end of the screen, we'll see Niko attempt Scoot Clip right now. He is about to try it right here. And gets a drive-by version of it very nicely, very fast.
You know, I've heard some racers say that getting the scoot clip on the drive-by is actually easier than trying to do a setup for it.
Nicely done capture warp here, about to talk to the bench friend. And once again, I kind of want to point out, pretty much as soon as Nicro got out of the swings, his run has been pretty good. Like, really good. If I'm thinking back, like, his leg was pretty much phenomenal, pretty much mistakeless loss. He had some issues there at night Metro at the very start, but other than that, this run is really good, actually.
A bit of a weird comparison there. We saw both of those runners inside of girders collecting moons. It kind of made me do a double take. I wasn't really sure what was going on there for a second, but it is Nicro who is ahead. Suisaiga having a little bit of trouble with the scoot clip here. Had to do a backup.
Yeah. This trick can actually lose you way more time than you would initially think. It's fairly small movements that you have to do to back up. Oh, Sui really having some issues right now, not actually able to grab the moon before the capture warp. But Scooter Clip is one of these tricks where you seem like you lose 2 seconds or something just by going for a backup, but it's more like 8. It's really crazy if you compare to the drive-by version of the trick, how much time you can actually lose there.
Yeah, imagine comparing it to perhaps the RC car version of it. You know, time really does slip away.
Sure. But I think even with the slow start for Nike, this run might still be on something like a 101 pace. So pretty crazy run so far. Some slight mistakes sneaking into the run right there as he was about to spin pound that scrap part, unintentionally grabbing it for a little bit. But nonetheless, pretty good run. So he's still trying to catch up, and it's not like he doesn't have a chance to do so.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time in this run. We're only about halfway through. And I would say that Suisaiga has proven himself in the late game as well. He's just an overall very good runner. And when it comes to NicroVeda, you know, I think that he's the kind of runner that has some good days and some bad days. And, you know, it's kind of hard to tell what brings the post-game for him. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Also getting that spin pound there, some nice moon grab on that climb. And let's see if he can get the signature here. Yeah, I can't say the actual name of that strat. That's a little bit rough. But anyways, Nicro actually missing it anyways, so it doesn't even matter. Not getting the instant ground pound there on that cafe moon.
A little bit shaky going into the day metro portion. You know, we saw him miss the spin pound on the rubble in the commemorative park, and a couple of what I like to call ground bonks from NicroVeda there as well. Essentially, if you fall from too high a distance, then you take a little bit of a stun animation. Not damage per se, but just a time loss for sure.
Sure. Warp done, Nicro's out of the kingdom. I will be able to actually see that fade out time. It looks like it's going to be still like a 30-10, which is a little bit more. It's like going to be like a 30-14. But this is still possible to get a 101 run out of this for sure. Pretty easily even still.
This pace is still really good. Comparatively, you know, 30-13 it looks like he's going to be going for here. So really, the only mistakes that he has been making, the big ones, were in the very early game in Cascade.
Also, I personally haven't checked his coin counter, and looking at Suisaiga's right now, he will be going to Seaside in this run. I'm not sure if Nicro has enough coins. He didn't really grab many in Sand. And he also didn't fight the boss, so that's something to keep in mind. I'm not absolutely sure. It might have been enough in Sand, and then maybe over, like, overexciting here, but Sui definitely needs to go to Seaside. There's no doubt in my mind. He only has like 67 coins, but I'm not sure about Nitro right now. We are about to see.
We can really only hope that Suisaiga is paying attention to go to Seaside first.
Oh, Nitro has
actually
70
does
coins.
not have nearly enough coins, so he may be realizing this at the very last second here. He's going to have to do the Rango room to compensate.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Rango room is probably the best choice. There's no way that he can catch up. I'm not so sure if Sui will keep in mind that he has to go to Seaside, which is something that Nitro seemed to have forgotten there. But we'll see. And Nitro probably going to be going for the Rango room. He still needs to do Snowdrum nonetheless. He wants to make that route work, which is something that is available to us now. That didn't used to be that way when we actually didn't know about Snowdrum. We were kind of in an even worse spot when that was the case. But now he will be going for that Rango room and then into Snowdrum, which loses you, I'm assuming, about 3, 4, 5 seconds, depending on how well you actually do the Rango room over the shop.
It really does come down to your optimization of that room, and, you know, judging by these runners' capabilities and how often they do just go to Seaside first in a situation like this, it's probably not on their agenda to optimize that room very much.
So Suisaiga did in fact head to Seaside, so we'll be seeing a little bit of a switch up for now. But I am hoping at least that Nitro is aware of his coin count, because we've seen before runners not paying attention to that at all and then heading into the shop. And if he goes into the shop just to realize that he's short, that actually really hurts as far as time loss is concerned.
Yeah, he has a lot of time to kind of recognize that he's short, so hopefully he does kind of figure that out before he makes it past the Goomba room.
Yeah, for sure.
But as far as I can see, he still is holding on to a lead here, so even a mistake of going into the shop and not recognizing could still put him in a position where he's in the lead. That
was actually so interesting. Nitro tried to go for a pretty interesting strat where you keep one Spiny alive intentionally to make the camera pan a little bit quicker, but for some reason that Spiny just decided to jump into the poison a little bit later, so he wasn't actually quite able to pull it off. That's not really losing any time. It could have just been a little bit more optimal. Sui going for Flower Rocket to refresh and getting it nicely.
I wonder if we're at the point that we'll see any racers go for some sort of two-frame ideas.
Yeah, I'm about to hopefully see that soon in some kind of attempts, because it is definitely, well, sounding so hard, but then again, so many people actually go for these frame-tight inputs. It's worth to say that this is in fact the motion control input, which makes it even more ridiculous, but it is arguably pretty possible to get. Maybe not super consistently, but the thing is, the punishment for not getting it is not like run ending.
Yes, that's very true. I think that's what kind of distinguishes this particular trick from a lot of others. You know, when you think about adding a trick into the run, you kind of weigh the benefits versus the cost. If you fail it, how much time is it going to lose me? All right, 20 seconds, maybe it's not worth it. But with something like this, you're probably only losing about 1 or 2 by attempting something like a 2-frame. So this honestly isn't the most costly trick that you could be going for, and yet we just still don't see it yet.
But let's see this though. Let's see if Nico's able to still do this room at least semi-quick. Right now it's looking to be that way. That was pretty optimal right there as far as the start is concerned. Kind of getting stuck there, also bonking. This hallway is a little bit tight as long as he's going to be able to get that moon without trouble. And looks like he will. He will be fine just warping towards Snowdrum right now. And this is obviously the next trick we want to focus our eyes on, because as brought up by someone actually just recently, Nitro has been kind of known for getting some Snowdrum misses on better paces. But for now, we will see how this would play out. Very quick setup, very confident actually. Let's see if he can back that up. Looks like he will be able to.
Very clearly displaying that vectoring that I was talking about earlier. You can see after that first cat bounce. Oh my goodness, what is the direction on this jump? Oh, and he's going to take a bonk there.
About to call it out. I was going to say, well, it might not matter this much because he's still going to make it over, but apparently he didn't. So now he's going to just warp back. Not as bad, obviously. He did previously get the moon, but that's just basically 12 seconds kind of thrown into the dumpster, having to take that bonk, falling all the way back down, and then warping back up. Pretty unfortunate. Nitro having to deal with some rough sections here. Also, obviously, Rango Room coming into play. That I guess, return from Snowdrum miss. I'm not even sure if there's like a name for it. But he's still probably, I mean, he's still surely in the lead, but definitely taking some hits here.
Yeah, Suisaiga needs to capitalize on that in order to make up a little bit of ground. You know, I think Nitro probably lost about 15 to 20 seconds in that Snow Kingdom just from all of the kind of mishaps and unfortunate circumstances that he was put through here. So if Suisaiga plays Snow really clean, then he could be closing the gap.
Yeah, and obviously Seaside still on Nicro's hands here, so we're going for that roll cancel towards Chivarian entrance. It's also worth to note that he had some issues there on that first moon, if we talk about Suicide, but other than that, his Seaside looked fine. And that's actually interesting. This is kind of a race between Chiveria and Seaside right now. Both of them pretty much diving at the exact same time. We'll see who comes out on top.
Oof, Suisaiga getting the bad wall jump off of this bridge. There are a couple places that you can kind of consistently get the wall jump off of the bridge, but a lot of runners opting for either a wall jump-less version or using the pole on the side of the wall to get up there instead, just to make that a little bit more consistent. We did see both runners actually have a little bit of trouble with that.
Moonclip attempt from Suisaiga here. He's not going to be able to quite make that. It's obviously worth to say that he made his way to the World Peace Finals, actually ended up winning the entire thing. So Suisaiga definitely pretty high skill as far as that goes. And wow, that actually looked like more speed than usual. I might have been confused there, but it looked like he just got an amazing boost out of this. Niko will be, oh wait, he actually will be missing these nodes. He might still be able to back this up. Just, oh no, that node literally despawned in like the last second. He has to go all the way back now, reactivate the nodes, and that's what you get for not doing the flower rocket refresh. That's all I'm gonna say.
That is really unfortunate. You know, it looked like he even got the spin throw in, and maybe he just like missed his ground pound input. Didn't get the jump off.
Looking at this now, that had to happen because I don't see any reason. Oh, he was actually probably going for the tomb frame at this point. The way he just jumped into the moon there. But Nicro seemingly messing up Flower Rocket refresh at the start, then missing the nodes and then going for it again. So it looks like he just had a missed ground pound or something happened to him. But this is quite a costly mistake here. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that can happen in Seaside at all.
Absolutely. Seaside, you know, kind of a sleeper kingdom for the most part. I'd say that the dry portion is probably the hardest part. But that being said, don't underestimate some of the tricks that exist in it because they can lose you a lot of time at the beginning.
Yeah, and if you just go through it, I'm assuming that like missing nodes and then having to go all the way back because swimming is so slow in this game if you don't have access to any cheeps is probably one of the most time-consuming mistakes that can happen to you. It looks like he might still be holding on to lead. This is mainly also due to Sui having some issues there with that bridge jump. Obviously, probably lost him around 6 to 7 seconds. But it is just a rough number. It might be completely different. But I feel like this can be pretty close now. Sui unintentionally bonking against that little cap stand. But if he was to get snowed on first try without any issues, that lead might have shrunk pretty drastically.
Yeah, we do see Nicro and Sui have the same amount of moons at this moment, but Nicro only has this one quick moon to grab here, and then he's warping back to the Odyssey. Meanwhile, Suisaiga still has to do the Snowdram technique, and it all comes down to his execution to see whether or not he maintains a close following distance to Nicro.
Warp to the Odyssey pretty much at the exact same time. Obviously, Sui still needs to collect an additional moon right here. So if he gets this, and looks like he will, it was actually very easily done. Sui might only be behind by about 15 seconds now. Text banner coming up right here, so I'm assuming this is going to be around 17. So this lead shrunk drastically. And with Luncheon being up next and Bowser's still being a kingdom in this game, this race is completely open in my opinion.
Yeah, anybody's game here. We are within a reload or an Odyssey power-up time difference, so less than 20 seconds between these two, and they're both headed to Luncheon now.
I am in Luncheon, in fact, with these guys, obviously. It looks like Nitro will be starting off with Soul Triple. This is once again a trick that I think he has been one of the most consistent one pretty much since the get-go, and he's about to miss it probably because I'm commentators cursing him. No, he did actually end up getting him. I feel like there's some tricks actually while watching Nitro. I feel like a lot of speedrunners that play any percent have been watching Nitro exclusively at the start of, I guess, the racing. I mean the any percent action because he was exclusively the world record holder for so long. And there's a bunch of tricks that he made look so easy, but then when playing it myself, I just realized how hard they are, and Soul Triple being one of them. He like almost always got that, and as soon as I tried doing it, I was like, wow, that's actually super hard.
Yep, it's one of those very specific jumps, and as long as you've got your timing down, it usually treats you pretty good. That being said, you can still mess it up quite a bit.
Ooh, Sui really having some issues there after getting that second moon of Luncheon Kingdom, trying to go towards this Bjord fight, probably losing him around 5 or more seconds with that bonk, and then also not being able to get back up. So Nico will be building his lead a little bit further. With that being said, after you leave that sub room in Luncheon, the entirety of the kingdom speeds up pretty drastically. It gets more movement heavy and it gets more punishing, more lava, so just more intense.
Yeah, after they exit this little sub area is about when things ramp up. It just becomes a very technical kingdom. You really have to be tight on your inputs, otherwise you fall in the lava, lose a lot of time, or you just kind of spaghetti everything and make things difficult for yourself. Now, speaking of Luncheon Kingdom, we were just in America, and I think America has some of the most diverse and kind of interesting food. There were a lot of places that do not exist in our home countries. What was your favorite place, Lim, when we were there?
The thing is, I can't pronounce it. Like, if I pronounce it, I'm gonna get
Oh my
flamed.
goodness.
Can you pronounce it for me? I mean,
So-
I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about.
This is kind of funny because we spent the entire trip making fun of Limcube for this, basically. But
It's Batman.
Chipotle.
Ah, yeah, that one. Good place, good place. I'm sure Luncheon could have some information, but actually Sui going for a pretty clever little strategy there. It's easy to miss that, but he actually took some damage, and he just grabbed that checkpoint by kind of going on with his with his normal movement, and was able to actually restore his health that way. So that way he was able to avoid the damage refill.
Now, is that proven to be faster in a situation like that?
It's hard to say. I mean, if we compare it against something like the most optimal movement, it might be around the same. But these damage refills are really slow. Like if you 2 seconds, or I think it's like 1.7. I mean, it might be 2. I don't know exactly. That's pretty slow. So even something like a checkpoint grab like this might still be able to save time over the refill.
Yeah, you do have a good point there. And a lot of the times when you take damage, usually the action of taking damage causes you quite a bit of time loss as well. So whenever you can mitigate is probably a good idea.
For sure. Sweep with the pretty optimal portable cycle there. It's going to be able to capture the portable while it's still low, which is actually saving you more time than you might think, because if you capture the portable while it's in the peak of its jump, it will fall down all the way before you're actually able to control it. So even stuff like that can actually matter there.
Yeah, and Luncheon is really a kingdom that's all about that kind of stuff. That's the reason that we bonk against the soup pot, so that we can be as close to the ground as possible. You know, getting a really good time in Luncheon means taking all of these tiny little optimizations that exist all throughout the entire kingdom and just adding them together to make the best time.
It's actually so crazy. Like a 6:30 Luncheon might look really, really good. But there's people that have like a 6:06 Luncheon, and it's just taking all of these tiny things into account. Nitro with a very nice turn flip there, by the way. Pretty fast, pretty nicely done.
The setup was amazing, and he didn't even have to worry about the spiny. In fact, he just ignored the spiny and went right for the turnip clip and got it on the first try.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see. Sui actually is playing it safer, but this turnip won't be in a good position enough for him to be able to clip. This turnip also looks a little bit far. I think he will still be able to clip here. You just need to basically barely touch, barely have the Panbro be stuck between the turnip and the glass, but looks like he will make that work. Unfortunate for him to having to go for a backup there. If you just compare these Luncheons here, Nyquist has definitely been way better. So if he's able to close this out without a fall here, I think he will build up his lead pretty drastically.
Commentator's curse coming in a little bit.
It's not too bad though. It's not like a fall to the death pit. So
yes, luckily just a bonk down to the bottom platform just reinitiates the jump and is on his way again. So yes, on the whole, NicroVeda's Luncheon Kingdom just a little bit cleaner here on the whole.
Multi-moon acquired for Nicro here. So he's about to head there. And yeah, we will be able to actually see the exact difference. I'm assuming Ruined won't cause too much issues here. Very fast strategy for Sui to actually capture the meat. But if anything, this race is going to be decided more in Bowser's Kingdom, which obviously tends to be a pretty big one, with the mech being on the line. Both of these runners showing some pretty good consistency on the mech fight itself, if we look to the past. But also both of them surely having lost a PB or like a good run to it before.
Certainly. But before we get to the Bowser's Kingdom, we stop in Ruined, which of course is the most hype and exciting place to be. Now, you know what? Speaking of, I heard today that apparently today is Appreciate a Dragon Day.
What?
You know, they have a national day for just about everything, and today
I mean, I know, but that's just about as random as it gets. But if I'm appreciating any dragons, I'm not even appreciating the Ruined Kingdom dragon. Like, it's not even worth. I'm
not
finding
even
some other
worth.
dragons. Dude, Game of Thrones is coming back in April. That's the kind of dragons I appreciate, but not this guy.
Yeah, I do appreciate the mother of dragons herself, Khaleesi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's out of the question, but that's for sure. But yeah, let's keep it there. Let's not appreciate Mr. Ruin Fight, because if there's anything I want to like ban of this game, it's probably him.
You know, it was funny.
And volleyball.
We were having this conversation a little bit earlier in a GSA chat, but the fight itself is very epic. You know, for a Mario game, it's not really what you're expecting. It comes right out of left field, but as a speedrunner, it's just a very grueling kind of auto-scrollery portion where you just kind of, you know, there's nothing exciting happening here. You know, if you switch from 1.2, you don't even get Captain Toad to dance around with. There's really nothing that you can do. You just have to sit and wait, and, you know, it would be much better for all of us if we could just skip it or make it faster somehow. If there were a way to kind of break the sequence, make the dragon not do this whole wheels section and go right to hitting him in the head, you know, something that we could do to make this fight faster, but unfortunately, there is none.
I have seen actually some pretty amazingly creative ideas, which for some reason also don't work. It would just be amazing. For example, people have been trying to like be under the dragon's head when he smacks his face down, so that you're kind of clipped into him, and then trying to basically go through the dragon, trying to hit him below his crown, but the ground pound spot is actually not activated, so even that won't work. Just seems like there's really no way. I mean, you should never say never. If anything gets found, I'd appreciate whoever finds this a lot, but at this point in time, it seems unlikely.
It's an unfortunate situation, and about 3 minutes worth of speedrun where really nothing happens at all, so kind of just, you know, and it's a bit of a blessing as well.
It's beneficial
as a
for
runner,
runners,
as a runner, you kind of prepare yourself mentally for Bowser's Kingdom coming up. And while Bowser's Kingdom is probably not the hardest kingdom in the entire run, and it certainly is a place where the nerves get super high, so having a little bit of a break kingdom in between Luncheon and Bowser's does help a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, I'm not arguing against it as a runner. It's just as a spectator, pretty like anti-climactic, I guess.
Certainly.
But then again, Bowser's and especially in any Tide Race Moon kind of make up for it. So this also gives a little bit of time to kind of refresh the commentary, bring up some hot topics of the day, and kind of unwind a little bit. Because right now, even though Nicro is still in the lead, and we will be able to actually give you guys some exact numbers as they're about to leave this, this is far from over. Obviously, you guys have all seen the Mecha Brutal fight in Bowser's Anything is Really Possible, but it is still interesting to kind of look at the pace right here. Nicro is about to split here on that Ruined X, and looking to be a 46 on him. And as soon as Sui splits this, we will be able to actually tell what that difference is. Because once again, this difference might matter depending on how much Nicro wins. But if he wins, he's going to build up some additional point totals. Because once again, quick little shout outs to our league point system. If you guys haven't heard about this yet, you get 40 points for a win no matter what, and then there's an additional pool of 20 points that get distributed depending on how well you do, how much you win by. So even in a losing position, you kind of get incentivized to keep playing as good as you can, go for additional strats to be able to lose by less, so you get more of that point pool. If you want to get exact numbers, type in !leaks and read the table that you can find under the Super Mario Odyssey League part of the document. But for now, Macro is starting up Bowser's, and he's about to hit the ogre in his head.
Getting the spin pound. Optimal start to Bowser's Kingdom here. And you know, we're about 30 seconds apart from one another. So this race is still within, say, a Mecha Brutal fall, or even something in the Moon Kingdom. If somebody were to die during one of those phases, then we would see the lead change just like that. So this race is far from over.
Shout out to Sui, pretty much going for what Rolme did yesterday, kind of the two-player way of climbing this. I'm not absolutely sure. There's actually some faster strats that you can do while still doing a wall jump that nobody really does. But this is obviously a pretty interesting method of climbing this, and if done well, probably a little bit faster than the initial version of doing that wall jump up. but obviously nice to see, nice little mix-up. And Nitro is starting up shards, where also, once again, some newer tricks have been found, being able to avoid that Pokio capture. I'm pretty sure Nitro is not going to be messing with that for now, but might be something that is on the horizon.
Yeah, something like that is a really tricky thing to set up. It really does involve you basically doing everything else optimally in order to get the Pokios in the right place at the right time for that bomb to spawn and have it poke. And, you know, it's extremely hard.
Also, these bombs are on a cycle, so you really can't drop anything. I've seen GoYuya practice that today, and he seemed to be very consistent. And I actually haven't seen him miss it on that practice run that he tried there. But even still, it has to be incredibly hard.
Yeah, shoutouts to GoYuya. He is a BTT monster and one of the kind of pioneers of like really pushing the game as far as it can go.
For sure.
NicroVeda, interestingly, they're actually going for the strategy for that moon where you just do a spin pound up the side of the wall from the front rather than doing the dram strat. It's
respectable. It's still fairly fast. It's not as fast, obviously, as that capture warp strat, but this used to be what we did for the longest time. Sui, though, going for a very fast version of exactly that capture warp, even setting it up with a spin pound. So he is making up a little bit of time here. Nitro, obviously, being an optimal player, an optimal speedrunner, going for Harriet first here. Out of that, that's obvious. Optimal speedrunners do that. So.
Yeah, if you want to be good at the game, I recommend Harriet first. It's definitely...
Yeah, we see it right here. That's the confirmation. Even SuisaigaW, so...
Yeah, these two legends of the game are going Harriet first. That means that you should too, kiddies, as well.
Yeah, it's basically if you want to be a legend, you do Harriet first. That's kind of how that works. Yeah, for sure.
Shoutouts to Harriet first, gang.
Absolutely. Topper still has to be fought, obviously. I think is the right tense there. I have no idea, though. That was pretty much just a guess.
I think you nailed it.
Let's go. And Nitro is about to do so. Currently already about to hit him for the last time. So very clean Topper fight from this fight is a lot shorter than the Harriet fight. So it's not like they're an entire fight apart. It's actually a little bit less. So I'm actually, for this time, for real, gonna keep close attention to at what time Nitro is gonna be touching that moon here. That will give us a pretty exact number as of how far they're actually apart. Looks to be a 54, in this case 52, 54. And Sui is about to do the same, so we will be able to get a number out of that.
Yep, it's really not that far at all. All it takes for SuisaigaW to catch up here is a fall from Nitro, maybe going for target acquired. That last phase being probably the worst to fall off the mech. So if that were to happen, SuisaigaW would be right back in this.
17 here for SuisaigaW. So we're actually only looking at about 23 seconds that Nitro is currently in the lead by. And that is easily actually lapped by something like a missed mech hit, or even like a fall, missed climb at the start, Bowser phases and moons, everything is pretty much still on the line. Right now Nitro is doing this fairly scary jump without camera control, which is something that I haven't seen people lose a run to just recently, but this is still always apparent and always a pretty scary part of the run. And he is making his way up to the mech right now.
It did look like he was attempting some optimal Pokio flicking maneuvers there, trying to get that little sliver on the wall and flick himself towards the climb, but did just miss it. Not a big deal, though. Just has to kind of initiate the rest of the climb manually there. SuisaigaW almost bonking against that fence. He took a very tight corner there, but he is going to be safe. Not opting for that optimal flick, just going directly towards the wall right away.
Yep. And looks like he is about to make his way over there. Already fighting the mech. First bubble defeated, second bubble instantly hit. I'm not sure if Nitro is currently going for Harriet third. I would be curious why. Like, if he doesn't go for it, I would be kind of curious. I think this is something most runners have been learning now. And the way he's currently positioned might not give it away yet. But he is moving towards that Harriet bubble. So this is pretty much a confirmation that he is in fact going to be going for Harriet third. There's pretty much no reason to not do it at this point in time. Pretty much synced bubble explosions right there. And this setup is looking a little bit far to the left. I'm sure he will still be able to make it, and he will. Very nice spin pound there. Target acquired. Mech done for Nitro, but Sui still has to finish his.
Be very surprised if SuisaigaW doesn't go for Harriet third as well. This could, you know, potentially be a power play for the runner who maybe isn't so confident with it. Like we were saying, if you want to conserve your points, it might be safe to go for the topper, or sorry, the Spewart third. But both of these runners confident in their abilities.
Target acquired.
Target acquired.
Nice. So both of them getting that under their belts, and looks like Nicro's already in that multi-moon cuts animation. I think his splits just turned red right there, so he seems to be about a minute behind his PB, which will kind of help us gauge what this run might be, looking to be like a pretty high 101 if anything works out. If everything works out in his favor from here on out. But the main thing he's most concerned about in this situation, since the PB is pretty much not possible, and it's just not possible anymore, he obviously still needs to win and needs to do as best as he can.
Yep, and it's going to come down to Moon Kingdom. Now, Moon Kingdom, not the hardest kingdom in the run, but mistakes are extremely costly here.
For sure. Especially looking at you, Bowser. And I'm pretty sure we've seen actually Equan mess up one of these head crabs yesterday. And looking back, that was one of his biggest mistakes in the entire run. So it's so easy to lose a lot of time there.
And with this race being a lot closer than that one in particular, all it would take was maybe one or two of those kind of missed hat opportunities to really pull this race together.
125. So who's really winning here? Definitely one moon more here for Suisaiga. Obviously throwback to Wooded, where he picked up that tree moon and then missed nut clips. That's actually so unfortunate if he loses because of that. If he loses by like 18 seconds, that's literally because he got that extra moon.
That is true.
And this is like about the difference that Nicro has. He probably has like 25 right now, but 18 seconds could have just straight up been avoided by Sui if he just didn't forget that he had an extra moon.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to bet that just comes down to race nerves and not really realizing, because, you know, we're probably still in a spot where going for that tree route and then missing nut clip is probably a reset. So we haven't really deciphered or figured out what exactly a backup for that would be. And that probably is just what kind of decided for him to grab an extra moon by accident.
Yeah, that would be incredibly frustrating. But for now, even if they end that race like they are seeming to do right now, then Nicro would have won either way if it just stays like that. However, Nicro obviously still needs to go through that Bowser section after he just gets moon skip. A little bit of sloppiness there, trying to land on top of the Sphinx head. Swim. Okay, he did get that flower. It almost looked like he might have missed that. But yeah, Bowser being Nicro's focus right now.
Suisaiga's setup for the Moon Cave skip a little bit cleaner here, gets the turnaround, does get the hat bounce, and he's on his way to the Cathedral as well. So probably making up a couple of seconds here, but he's going to need more than that.
Yeah, for real. And right now Nicro is starting up on that Bowser fight. Actually, did he just miss? Yeah, I might have missed. Like, why was Bowser jumping away? Did he like not get the head grab? I was literally looking away for like a tiny bit of a second. So it seems, did you catch that, Dangerous, or did we just?
I think we might have just like completely blanked out. I think.
Yeah, Commentators definitely super unprofessional, but it looks like he actually might have messed up that first phase because there's no reason for Bowser to jump around there.
That's true. He might have just been too late getting to the platform, trying to go for that spin throw, perhaps, and just arriving late to the platform. That's about the only thing I can think of.
And now the difference is pretty much exactly about that time that it would have taken Sui to get that additional extra moon in Wooded. So this is pretty much what I've been afraid of, that it might actually come down to that. But there's obviously still a window for Sui to win nonetheless. There's the entirety of the escape section, and Nicro still needs to grab that one additional head phase here. This one being the one he does have access to that damage boost here, which makes it a lot easier usually. We'll go for it right now. So if he grabs that head, he should be safe as far as this goes, and he will, but escape being still a thing.
Yep, so Nicro threw the Bowser fight cleanly here. Only that one minor mistake at the beginning. Probably the first phase is the least painful to take a mistake in. But now, onto the escape. And playing this optimally, of course, is something that these guys are used to doing, but it's really going to come down to Nicro to pull that off in order to pull the victory out here.
For sure. Looking at the timer right now, seems like a 101 is technically it's still possible, but probably not happening here. I think most runners consider like a 2-minute escape the best they can probably get at like all times. But more realistically, we're looking at something like a 2 minute and 5 to like 6 seconds, even if you get early pillar. Like everything needs to be like crazy to get 2 minutes. You can get better, but it doesn't really matter right now. For now, it's definitely interesting to look at Nicro's 2D skip attempt, because he's about to go for that strategy. And he will get it once again. This, oh my god, I almost immediately Commentators cursed. I was about to say this hasn't been causing runners too much trouble, but he actually bonked there for a little bit, which can cause you to fall, even after that 2D skip already happened.
But he did hang on. He was able to pull out the clutch here, and he's on his way to the pillar room now. SuisaigaW, ooh, with the jump.
Oh god, he's not making it through. Our Commentators curse slightly hitting them, not making them fall, but having to do with some issues there on that 2D skip part. Still going through. So Nicro pretty much has this under the belt as long as he's able to not fall down randomly here. Early pillar will not cause him to lose if he was to miss it. Would obviously be a nice little bonus, because once again, we will look at these times and they might actually make it so that Nicro gets an additional point depending on how well this pillar room goes for him. So this is a thing to keep an eye out for.
It did look like he got the early pillar there. So, yeah, he just has this last one to break. Throwing the fireballs in now.
Nice.
Gets that
very good
final hit, and he's going to be breaking open the block. But SuisaigaW right behind did get that first pillar as well, it looks like. He's going to be making his way around, breaking the pillars. So, you know, phenomenal race from both of these guys.
Sure.
And SuisaigaW is going to be holding on to as many points as he potentially could, really. He's right on Nicro's tail coming out of here.
Yeah, pretty much right behind him. Looks like Nike will be ending this with a 1:01:52, which, if I'm remembering correctly, this might have been a PB of his at some point in time. This number kind of looks familiar. I might be wrong on that end. Wait, did he actually split early? Did he actually still get 1:01? There's no way. He might have split early. I'm once again not paying enough attention to it. I was focusing at Sui not splitting at all, so it's pretty much impossible for us to actually tell by how much these guys won by.
Now, if Nicro did split at the right time and SuisaigaW finished at 1:02:09, means that SuisaigaW is going to be coming away with 18 points here. Nicro only going to be able to snatch 2 from SuisaigaW in this race.
Yeah, I'm going to take a quick look at the end of that gameplay here. Nicro might have actually been able to get a 1:01:52, which is still pretty phenomenal. SuisaigaW apparently getting a 1:02:07. We just got confirmation back from him. He didn't stop his timer there. So this is going to make it so that Nicro actually won by 10, 20. I need to count it up here. A little bit more than 20. So as far as I am aware, this will cause SuisaigaW to gain 4 points, if I'm counting correctly right now.
It should be 18, should it not?
No, it should be 4 for Nicro, if I'm not mistaken. No, never mind. It should be 3 for Nicro. Oh, dude, I'm still confused so that I need to learn this. Apparently, we need to go anyways because there's a lot of action still up. Is there?
Yes, okay, there is some Celeste action following this race, so stay tuned if you want to watch some Celeste any percent league action coming your way. If you want some more SMO speedrun action coming your way, the next race is actually going to be on Saturday between myself and Fur_. Right before that, though, is the Task Season 3 live results, the very first one of the season, so stay tuned for that. But, you know, this channel provides a lot of exciting speedrun content, so stay tuned, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to miss task results. So thank you so much for watching. Check back on the standings on the league to be able to tell how the point distribution actually panned out. But Nicro obviously taking the win, and see you guys for more action soon.